Hi, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Meg James, your Move to Spain coach, and you are at episode 3, Trace, renting out your furnished home. So I think this is my favorite topic to talk about. I love talking about moving to Spain, so maybe there's not one more than the other. But this is such a great way if you don't know how to get started on moving to Spain. When I have coaching calls with people and I ask them, do you own your home in the US? And they say yes, I scream, dynamite, we found it already, because renting out your house is an excellent way to make sure that you're able to stay in Spain once you move to Spain. So I want to get into all of it. I've asked questions to my Instagram community and I have quite a few questions to get through. So let's talk about how we, our family of 4, have been able to rent out our US home in South Carolina, and how you too could rent out your furnished home in order to stay living in Spain. Okay, I have so much to cover today, but let me first show you our home and tell you our story. Now, everyone's story is going to be a little bit different depending on where you live, number of bedrooms you have, size of your home, area you live in, all the things. And so our story is that we own and have a mortgage on a 3,200 square foot home that we call Trinity Farm that we love in the Greenville, South Carolina suburbs. We were able to secure this at a very low mortgage rate. And because of that, we are able to charge $4,000 per month, which is a huge blessing from renters. That covers both our mortgage in the US and what we rent here in Madrid, which is $2,500 for our rental. And so because of that, we are able to cover both things, and it becomes very lucrative for us to continue to rent long term. So there are 2 options that you can do, either short term or long term. But the first thing I recommend everyone doing is finding out the value of which you could rent your home for in your area. I recommend finding a realtor that will help you instead of doing it on your own. Doing market research on your own is great, but if you're getting very serious about a move abroad, even temporary, having a realtor help you and walk you through how much you could rent for was a huge asset to us. And so I always recommend that. Short-term renting was out for us because being on a different continent, it just didn't seem like we wanted the constant turnover on the weekends, having to do more property management. There's just a lot more to think about. Although it can be very lucrative, it just wasn't something I was interested in doing. Long-term renting, I much prefer because it's 1 family or 2 families, 3 families. It's a certain set number of people. It's for a longer period of time. There's less foot traffic, and I just feel better knowing that there's less people circulating in and out of our family home that we love. And so this is our house. We love it so much, Trinity Farm. And a lot of people think we're crazy probably for having left it, and we live in this tiny 5th floor apartment here in Madrid. But for this season, we were called to an adventure, but we feel grateful that we know that our home there is always waiting for us. So if you have young kids, it may be a good idea to rent before you just sell your house to do a move abroad. The reason is it just gives us peace of mind to know that if and when we decided to move back to the US, that our home is just there waiting for us. And our kids' bedroom is intact. Our furniture is intact. We rent our house furnished, which helps us charge a little bit more too. And so when you're making the decision on renting, just keep in mind that short term has 1 renter at a time. So we had 1 renter for a 7-month contract. We currently have the 2nd family renting for 1 year, and you just build a relationship with them. So I did not know them in advance, but I got to know them now. We WhatsApp as the means to communicate internationally, free, and it just has been really easy. So we'll talk about some of the issues we've had and how we handle it, and if we're property managers or have our own. But let me jump into your questions, because my favorite one was the first one. It was, how the heck do you even, let me pull up my computer. How the heck do you even start this process? Like, where do you even begin? So again, get a realtor. My friend Laura Kirkland, who's an incredible realtor in the Greenville, South Carolina area, was such an asset to us. I think I would have charged less than what she encouraged us to charge people. And she just is so knowledgeable on the market and the area. So having a realtor is worth paying a realtor's fee in order to rent, because in the long run, you're gonna receive so much more back. So get a realtor, research how much you can make back. We'll talk about things and how we organized in a second, but that's how you start the process, is just do the research. See how much you could rent for, see how much an ideal kind of rental would be in the area in Spain you're looking at, and do the math. And you might be able to see that renting could be super lucrative for your family. So let's keep looking at some of these questions. Do you have a renter management company? So a property manager. We are our own property managers, which for some people is a little bit crazy, but we're able to do it because we have a newish custom built house. We don't have many standing issues with it. And so we just think that we can handle it mostly on our own. We did have a septic tank problem last year, and that was within the first few months of renting. And it was so hard navigating that from here with the time zone and the phone issues, just we don't have a US phone number anymore. And so it was pretty difficult, but it was doable. And issues happen rarely. If you have an older home or a home with issues, then it may be worth having a property management company. But we did not want to pay someone to do what we felt like we could do on our own. And so we save money by not having one, but you just need to have a good team of professionals in your area ready. So we have a good person that handles bugs, we have a good plumber, we have a good electrician. So whenever there's some kind of issue, we can just call the team in kind of and help us from afar. So I don't think you need to have a property management company. I already mentioned this, but no, we did not know the people who were renting our home. They were found because they found the listing on MLS, which is another reason of why having a realtor is very beneficial, because if you just kind of post it on Facebook and say, I'm renting my house, or you put it on Airbnb as short term, it's just okay. We tried the Airbnb route at first, but I highly recommend having a realtor, being posted on MLS as if it's a home sale, but renting, and just being out there in the realtor community, and it helps you get bites right away. So both of our renters in our home rented first time it was posted. So within 1 or 2 days of it being posted, first time, second time, we had a renter. So I highly recommend the MLS. All right, let's see. Did we remove all of our belongings when we decided to rent? So we are fortunate to have a little closet upstairs, un poco pequeño closet, that we store some of our personal items in, like photo albums or jerseys that the kids have played on teams they don't want to get rid of. So we keep all of that in there. Now our house is rented furnished, so all of our furniture, our decor, everything is intact besides photo albums and photo pictures, on the wall. So our belongings, meaning like our clothes, they are with us or they were purged. Toys are with us or they were purged. And so before we rented out our house, we did kind of a cleansing. We loved it. Clear through our house and got rid of things. Thinking of the kitchen, for example, we have dishes and spoons and everything. That's what they're using. So our pots and pans, everything is intact there. The things that we purged are like extra clothes, old shoes, old sports equipment in the garage, just things that we might outgrow or that we didn't like as much, and just gave them to a good local Goodwill type need. And so, yeah, you should clean and purge out any unnecessary items. Our house was very rentable. I'm going to show a picture of the interior here because it wasn't very cluttered. So I think it would be really hard to have a home that had a lot of things that was cluttered and rent out. For us, we kind of lived already a little bit minimally and just kind of had things in their place and didn't have excess when possible. So it's pretty easy for us to clear out because we didn't have a lot. So let's keep looking at your questions here. I don't know this exact answer because everything is in meters here, not square feet, but someone's wondering, which is tied to renting our house, how much it is to rent in Spain versus like renting out your house in the US. I'll be honest with you that renting in Madrid, Spain is very expensive. It needs its own YouTube video. But again, we pay $2,500 per month for a very small Madrid flat. It's big compared to Centro because we're about 15 minutes from Centro, but just know that even though you might be renting this gigantic US house out, you might still be paying a little bit more for a little apartment in Madrid. Now, if you move to like a small pueblo or a town in Spain, it may be less there and you may actually profit from renting out your house. So that just kind of depends on the area, but Madrid is expensive for housing. How many years did we own our house before we rented it out? So only 3. So we owned it for 3 years. So that's that. What site did you market it on? So I already mentioned MLS is a great one. I didn't do any kind of Facebook posting. I think the other ways that I got it out was something called furnishfinder.com. It is a rental site that shares any kind of fully furnished rental for people transitioning in between building homes. I don't think I had a ton of activity from that. I swear just by having it on the MLS. I think that's really the best way to advertise. How much work did you need to do to get it ready? So again, it depends on how much stuff you have. We didn't have to purge a lot because we just kind of aimed to live minimally. Unrelated to renting our house, we did sell our cars to move here, cleared out the garage, had the shed ready. If you're not interested in selling your car, you may need to look into a place to keep something like that. It depends on how long you're thinking of living abroad. So yeah, it just depends on your situation. So I can't speak much to it. It just depends on how much you have. It took us a couple of weeks to prepare, just cleaning out. We did all of the things in advance, like the basic deep cleaning. We do have a generator that if the power goes out, it will work. So we just had that checked, right? So it's a good time to kind of like give it the full maintenance check and make sure before you leave the continent that everything is going to operate according to what you expect. One of the big questions is always about taxes. And so I actually have an incredible tax company here in Spain that I'm going to do a whole kind of live video session with, because I don't want to speak to taxes too much because it's just very individualized. But the short answer to the question of, do you pay rental income taxes in the US or Spain? The short answer is that we pay that tax to the US currently. It just depends on where you are and how long you've been in Spain. So I'm not going to answer a lot of tax questions, but we'll come back to a lot of that. We are paying taxes on the rental income that we receive, regardless of where. And there is a double treaty agreement between Spain and US, so you're not going to pay it twice. So as long as you're paying it somewhere, then it's considered paid. I'm going through your questions. I'm about halfway done, so stick with me. Was there anything you didn't want to leave in the house for your tenants to use? So I think this depends on you as a person. I'm very I'm thinking of the Spanish word like compartir, but I'm a sharer. Like I just like to share what I have, and very hospitable, and I love that they're using my pans and my bowls. So no, there wasn't anything like super special to me or off limits. For me, I think it was just the photo albums, right? So you don't want to go to a home and that you're renting, and like if I was in this rental here in Madrid and he had family pictures all over it, it would be really weird, right? So anything that felt kind of personal, pictures, just like memories that didn't make sense for a renter, we kept them in storage. So I would just be mindful of that. But otherwise, linens were a big one. In our linen closet in advance, I had gone to Target there and just filled in new sheets, new duvet cover, just all new, fresh, inexpensive linens. And then I kept our linens that we use day to day on our beds there in storage. And so you might want to replace the mattress covers or protectors and just kind of have things ready as if it's a hotel, but then have your stuff stored away so that just that's not touched. Someone's wondering, how does it work with the LLC? So that's a good question. So let's talk about that. So I do recommend opening an LLC. This is actually a really good idea from our realtor to have it just for your rental. So let me give you my situation. We own 3 small businesses. Go and Do Good LLC for my freelance work. My husband's consulting company LLC. And then we opened a 3rd LLC, which is solely for renting our home, Trinity Farm LLC. The reason for that and opening a separate bank account, its own dedicated bank account, is because if, heaven forbid, there was an issue with your renter and they came after your assets, when you have an LLC formed for your rental income and they're paying to a dedicated checking account, they then can only go after the assets tied to your rental, right? So not the value of your home, meaning the amount that they paid in rent. So if I had a checking account that had $30,000 in it, and then they paid me $4,000 a month, they would be eligible to both that $30,000 and the $4,000 that they paid every month. By having a separate LLC, it just kind of keeps the funds tight, and the only funds say that they could go after are the ones they've given me for rent. And so it's just a peace of mind for me, and it's a good, easy step. Opening an LLC is free. Or not free, so I shouldn't say it's easy. It's like $100. It's very low cost to open an LLC. Okay, yeah, have we hired people locally to manage? Yes, you know, if you already have a good person that handles bug control or plumbing and things, just ask them, hey, is it okay if I have you on my team? Do you have a WhatsApp number? Are you on Facebook Messenger? How can I reach you when I'm in Spain so that if there's an issue with our renter, I can get a hold of you quickly? And so that has worked really well for us, and it's helped us still support local there in South Carolina in the US. How do you find renters that you know that will trust to take care of your home? So I totally understand this question, because before we rented out our house, I thought, am I gonna have like the weirdest feelings ever about people being like in my room or like just sitting on my couch? Like it just feels kind of weird. And I think the answer to this is the longer you're removed from it, the less you think about it. Right? So I would say like the first couple of weeks in Spain, I'm like, do you think our house is okay? Like, do you think they're caring for the grass? Do you think, you know, they're caring about it like we do? Because we love Trinity Farm. And the answer is, I think over time, you just kind of don't think about it. My mom is someone who lives in fear of us being in her house. And so I remember when like our son had a glass of milk when he was a baby and he spilled it on the floor, you would have thought like, kingdom come, like she was freaking out. And so I just learned in that moment so many years ago, like just that our home is temporary here. And when you have a huge attachment to things and the things in it and the floors and the walls and the furniture, and if you just really care too much about it, it can become an idol, and it could become something that is a problematic for you. And so I just encourage you to just have freedom in not worrying about what's happening, because it's all fixable, it's all temporary, and just to not let it become an obsession is just my tip on that. Storage units. So yeah, we had that closet. That was a great option for us to store some things away that we needed. If you do not have an option like that in your home, then having a storage unit is an excellent way to be able to maintain things that you want to keep, especially if you decide not to do furnished. I recommend furnished because it makes it so much easier to leave. There are so many things moving abroad, like your visa and all the additional paperwork and prepping your house and packing. And there's just so much stuff that I did not want to think about getting my furniture out of my house too. But if you just are not open to a furnished rental, there's no reason you couldn't get a storage unit and put your things in there too. I'm just not a storage unit person. I'm not a fan of that for me. All right, we're almost done with the questions. Thanks for hanging on with me if you're still here. I am going to just make sure that anybody who wants to know what it's like. So someone's asking, okay, your kids moved at a pretty young age. So our kids moved abroad when they were 11 and 9. They're asking, how did they feel about leaving their room behind? And I think that's a really good question, because, you know, we teach our children from a very young age to nest and kind of get comfortable in their room. And then when you leave it, it can be hard for children. So for us, we brought little things of our home to remind us of our home when we came to wherever we were in Spain. And so for our kids, our boys love their Alexa. It's like their comfort thing. When they come home from a trip, even here in our flat here in Madrid, they'll put their Alexa on and ask Alexa, what's the temperature? What time is it? Play this song. And I feel like that's their nesting thing. And so we brought our Alexas with us. It was very easy to do. They each brought a stuffed animal or two. We brought a blanket from home. I was sick actually here in our flat in Madrid last week, and it was just very comforting to have a blanket from home to snuggle with when you just want, you know, something that feels like home. And so, yeah, there are things that you can do that allow them to make this new space feel like home as well. Let's see if there's anything else that anyone has. Okay. And the last big question here, I think, is what happens if there's like a huge issue that goes wrong? So that kind of was our case last year with the septic issue. I don't know if you're familiar with septic tanks, because we're on land and not on the city water for sewer. And so because this happened, we were fearful that literally this was going to be a $50,000 fix. I mean, it was just, I had many days of just freaking out that this was happening while we were gone. It ended up being much smaller scale, but the answer just goes back to having trusted professionals that know that they're not going to take advantage of you while you're gone, that they're going to give you quotes that are realistic and not just taking advantage because, oh, they're in Spain and I'm going to charge them more because they're desperate. So because we had a good team ready, that really handles anything that could be really bad to your home and onwards. So I wouldn't worry too much about that because it's going to be pretty rare that you have a huge house issue. That does take me to insurance because we do have renter's insurance on our home. So for home insurance that you have, you can cancel your home insurance policy, but change it to a renter's home insurance policy. So it's very affordable. It's like $15, I think, a quarter or something, but we're paying towards huge issues that could happen, like a fire, heaven forbid, or something that would cover us for any liability that happens with the renters there. And last thing, okay. Yeah, I mean, this is a similar question. There's just so many questions about taxes and how much they could charge for renting their house, and it's all just situational. And so really the encouragement of this video is if you have on your heart to move abroad, but you don't have a job there yet, and you're just not sure how to make a way, the first stop is to look into your home. If you own a home, you could be looking and standing and sitting in the ticket to be able to initially get to Spain. Again, we have a job here now in Spain, but we didn't when we first got here. And so now that my husband works for this UK company and we're bringing in income, it feels regular like it did in the US, but it didn't in the beginning of our journey. So knowing that you're having that monthly income rent come in is such a blessing. It's just a relief. And so I encourage everyone to try it and see if renting your home could be for you as a way to move abroad. So this wraps up episode 3, Trace, of your move to Spain. But I hope that you'll leave any questions or comments you have below and that you'll join me for the 4th episode. Ciao.